Yeah, many thanks for the intro. It's been a while, and you will hear some history, where I came from, where we're now, and where we're heading to. And the talk is called Developer Magic, and magic, as Trevor's topic was music, my topic is now magic, because I think maps are magic in a way. Hi everyone, I'm Martin Kleppe. I am one out, I think there are 10 Google developer experts with the map circle currently. Not sure, is someone a Google developer experts in this room? So it's a special group where you have where you're in contact with the Googlers and have access to new products, talk to them in a really early stage, also go to conferences, giving talks and so on. I'm also quite known in the JavaScript community, where I try to push the boundaries of the language. So this is usually giving talks about crazy JavaScript stuff. In this case, it's JS Fuck, not sure if you heard about this, but it lets you write esoteric JavaScript with only 6 different characters. The last time I've been to New York, I gave an intro on how to write JavaScript with Asian characters only. And this is one of my famous creations. It's a 1K word quine. So it's a source code that has a 3D embedded word inside of its own code without any external dependencies. And this is like the theme that I usually pick up. I'm really into maps that I can explain you later. And I'm trying to push the limit of what's possible. So the code itself, it's only like 500 characters to render this, and you have another 500 characters for the word itself. And besides hacking, I run my own company. It's called Ubilabs. We are about 40 people. And from the very first day, we are 100% focused on crafting maps application. And to show you some examples that we did, we have many clients in the German-speaking countries. But we also work a lot for Google. We've created more than 100 demos now for Google. And I will walk through some of our creations. For example, we did a project called EarthView, which was running for a long time. And it was the default background for all the Android phones and for the Chromecasts and the Chromebox. We had a project here in New York to have, I would say it was the biggest screen for maps ever. So this is on Times Square. It has an animated map showing the latest Street View imagery that we collected. We are currently maintaining the fastest growing React library for Google Maps, which has more than 1.5 million weekly downloads. If you're using React, definitely check this out. And the latest project that we finished was the imagery grounding demo. I guess we have to talk about this, which was featured at Google I/O. And you could select any Street View scene, have a prompt, modify this, create this into this gingerbread cars scene, and then take a selfie with you in front of the screen. And now we have a couple of other projects in the pipeline. I'm not sure if you heard about Project Greenlight. This is another team from Google that uses AI and Google Maps to analyze traffic around the world. And they optimize traffic lights to reduce the vehicle emission. And our job here was to draw arrows on a map. Yeah, so they hired us because no one else knew how to do this with the Google Maps API. They are using the Google Maps API and ask us, okay, we need to draw colored arrows on a map. And we did that. And the question is also maybe how did I get here? And I would like to take you on a really quick journey. And it all started where I grew up. I'm not sure if you recognize this shape. This is Germany. And the blue dot is the exact center. It's really, or actually there are 3 different centers, but if you take the center of these 3 different centers, then it's the town where I grew up. But at the time I was living there, there was a big border just in front of our house. So there was a little street, and if you cross this, there was always people passing by and say, okay, you're not allowed to go here. So we were trapped in the country, and we had no information to the outside world. It was like a really bad area. There was no internet at that time, and we were not allowed to travel at all. And in 1989, the border was teared down in a peaceful revolution, and from that day, everything was open, and I really loved traveling the world, get access to speak to everyone. And a short time later, I was invited to a university. During school, they had opened up a new computer pool, and they had access to the internet. Yeah, it was the first university in the Eastern Germany part that had access to the internet. And I was super curious, and I looked up NASA.gov. There was no web browser at the time. It was all through Telnet and some other strange systems. And but the only thing I saw was this login prompt, and I had no login. Guess was not working, and I tried, I don't know, for more than 10 minutes, just trying guessing passwords, and I finally made it with J Smith, and the password was NASA. Or 4 letters. Okay, it changed. And I would say this was a day when a lot of things changed for me, because I was trapped in this country, no maps at all, and I got access to the internet, and what I saw then was a map of the United States with something on top of it. I created this with Gemini. It's really hard to remember for me, because I looked at this for 2 seconds and I was super afraid. Yeah, I remember all the spy movies when someone, like the FBI, is coming to your house and catch you. And I immediately turned it off, and but for somehow this sticked into my mind, and I was really like curious how this was done and how is this possible. A bit later, I moved to another university. It's called Bowers University. I'm not sure if you know the Bowers movement. They are quite famous also here in the US. They have this paradigm or this principle called form follows function. They had a lot of famous artists, Kandinsky, Mondrian, who also lived in New York. And they were well known for the minimal aesthetics and reducing things, combining technology and design. And we did a lot of field trips during that. I was to Japan, also to New York. And this is in 2004, after we went back from New York. And at that time, I was printing out a map. I guess I was using MapQuest or some other map services where I had to stitch things together to create this 10 feet tall map. And I used a GPS tracker and later plotted the whole way. You see it here, the red lines are the way that we walked through the cities, and also stick pin inside of the map. So this was my first map smash up, but really analog one. And this is what happened a year later. You saw this from Mike, and actually we were living here in this area where the big question mark was. But I was using it from the first day, and I really saw the potential. I was into JavaScript, and I thought, okay, this Ajax type of thing, it's really growing fast, and there's a lot of potential. And we decided, or maybe from the background, this is how maps usually looked at that day. Yeah, so you had a fully cluttered GIS systems where you might have to learn like a couple of years how to use it, and the Google Maps changed a lot of things. And I would say the most important thing was that it was super easy for everyone to use it and navigate a map. Yeah, and it was fast. The styles were reduced, and it was obvious in the first 2 seconds how to use it. And this was also like the time when we decided to build our business around that. The first thing that we did, because I love to take pictures, and there was a platform called Flickr. I'm not sure if you know this anymore, but we created the first mashup where you can locate the pictures on a map, and people really love it because they're not only seeing their pictures, but also where the picture was taken. And at the same time, I would say exactly 10, 20 years, was Mike Pack's blog post released. So I think he posted it immediately after I was sending him the mail. And you had a map with the real-time position of riders on a map that you can follow, and it was, I think, 2 minutes before the live signal in the TV. So it was faster than what you can watch on TV. And there was quite huge success. We didn't get any money from that, but a lot of burning servers because we had so much traffic going on. But we continued that over the years, and in the first year it was just markers with a route on a map. The next year there was the elevation profile API. Then the year later, Street View was introduced as an API. And I guess this was in 2009, styles. You can style the map, and you have server-side rendering of large data on a map, and a lot of more to come. Yeah. So this is the history where I'm from, and I was thinking about before preparing this talk, what's so special? And I would say, okay, Google Maps is not only math and geometry. Yeah, for me it's kind of form of magic. And to explain you what I mean is, if you realize that making digital maps, it's a blend of art and science, and you need to combine technology and design to make something that's easy accessible for users. You know, so you have super complex data formats, a lot of data, and you use technology to process them and then display them in a browser in an active system and make it really easy to understand for the user. And the good thing is that the Google Maps app, JavaScript API, they cover both of these areas. Yeah, so you have a lot of API that goes into technical details that will give you all the data, but it lets you also style your map to your need. And usually when you get the map, it's quite blown with all the little details that you need in everyday use cases. But we always start to reducing these maps. Yeah, so we remove everything that you don't need. And then later add your own data on top of the map. Or you can also style this map to make it, to have it the look and feel of your own brand, like this Montreal style, for example. And this is also the principle that we always apply to all the demos that we develop for Google. So the first thing is reducing the map, having our own brand colors on top to really make the content stand out. And reducing to the maximum is like the most important part, I would say, from our perspective. This is an example, for example, was a request from one of the Google teams. They were releasing the new geocoding API, and they have now the destination endpoints, and they vibe coded a little demo, and you see, okay, we have so many new data that we can put on top, and it's cool from a developer perspective. And our task then was to look at this and decide how much can we remove and how much can we then tweak in the styles to make it obvious what's going on. And the final demo is then this, and we let the user also decide and toggle through these different API layers to understand what's going on step by step, instead of just showing everything at once. Yeah, here's another demo that looks super easy. It's air traffic around the world, but it's running at 60 frames per second, and it's interactive. And it took us a couple of weeks to tweak all the detail. And the task that we see is this like the magic part then, because we think that the true magic happens when technology disappears. So the user looks at the map and the technology is not there. It just works. Yeah. So when the data is so fluid and the UI is so clean that the user forgets that they're interactive with complex geospatial data, then the magic happens. And the reason why this is so fast now, so powerful, is the compute power that evolves over time. So we started with single CPUs to multi-cores. Then there was a big shift when the GPUs were rendering maps on the fly in the browser, where you can rotate maps instead of just displaying images. You had the first 3D maps. And now we see a new area coming up with all the TPUs that are running in parallel in the cloud. Yeah, so the compute power evolves massively. And I would say this is also changing the way how we interact with maps, because the map is not a tool, just a tool anymore. I would say we start with a tool. So you have a canvas and you put something on top. But now the map is more an environment where we can interact, where we can explore. And this changed a lot of things now. And AI in this case is the prestige. Yeah, so I would say we're moving from where it is to what can I experience here? How can I explore the underlying data? How can I get an understanding of everything that's around me from a personal perspective, but also from on a global scale? And the best thing is everyone can use this magic now. Yeah, so we have the tools now that's easy accessible. That maybe also one side note, Google, or I am a background maybe as you saw, I'm a design student. I have no background in computer science, but the Google Maps API was the first API that was so easy to use. It was in the browser, you can test out things instantly. And the documentation was just one long page with every function call that you can have, and you just hit Command and F to find a term, and you have the information available. And this is now coming back. Yeah, a lot of things happen to the maps area, and with the AI agent and the LLMs, this is, I would say, a new reboot of this area. And with that, I say thank you for listening, and I pass over to Angel.